On a winter Monday morning, a construction worker came to work as usual near a hospital in Helsinki, Finland. When walking into a park close to the construction site, he saw something on the ground, and when walking closer, he realized that it was the body of a 16-year-old boy. This is a murder that would later lead to big discussions and headlines about the increasing violence among teenagers in Finland. This is the case of three teenage boys who bullied, abused, and murdered their own friend. So hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Elin and on this channel I cover true crime cases that have occurred in the Nordic countries. I want to give a huge warning before I start this video. This case is extremely raw and it will include talks about the murder of a child, bullying, depression, mental health problems, and abuse. So if that's something that you can't listen to, I completely understand and I suggest you click out of this video right now, and I hope that I will see you in another video. I'm not gonna lie, this case was super hard to research and it's a pretty disturbing case, but with that being said, now let's get into the case that happened in Finland. So the victim in this case have not been publicly named, or at least I could not find the name on the internet, so I will just be calling him Elias in this video. Elias was a 16-year-old boy who was described as loyal, empathic, nice, and gifted, but he was also described as very lonely, quiet, shy, and pretty sensitive. He was especially sensitive to disturbing sounds, so he would usually wear his headphones when he was out in public. Elias was the only child to his parents and he grew up in Koskela in Finland. When Elias was only 3 years old, his parents got divorced, and after that he was living with his dad, but he also saw his mom regularly. In school, Elias was talented in mathematics and English language, but overall school did not go well. He had been bullied basically his whole life ever since primary school from other students and also from his so-called friends. The bullying had begun as name-calling and insulting, but later on unfortunately progressed into physical violence. According to sources, the bullying had been ongoing and from many different people, and the school had tried to stop the bullying, but as usual, this did not help and the bullying continued. In his last years, Elias had suffered from severe depression and his circle of friends had shrunk, and some people stated that he only had one friend in school and was usually seen alone. Elias reached a point where he did not want to go to school anymore and he had a hard time waking up in the mornings, and his parents actually started worrying a lot for his health. Because of this, Elias' parents contacted the Child Protection Services in hopes of getting help, and he was placed in an orphanage in 2020. But living away from home was very hard for Elias, and his mental health actually worsened so much that he was hospitalized for a while. His school was also affected, so he actually moved to another school for a while, but he moved back to the old one as he did not like the new school. For a while, it seemed like Elias was doing a bit better as he was smiling and joking, which was not typical for him. He also started hanging out with two other boys who I will call Kalle and Antti in this video. So Elias had met Kalle and Antti already in kindergarten and went to school together with them. Elias' mom has stated that Kalle and Antti used to play at their home and they were childhood friends. Elias was closer to Kalle and they were usually in contact through Snapchat. Antti was Kalle's best friend on the other hand and was usually there when Elias and Kalle met each other. In the end of summer, another boy also joined their group, who I will call Samuel in this video. Samuel was the oldest one in the group and some sources describe him as being the group leader, and it seems like he kinda changed the group dynamic a little bit. Kalle, on the other hand, was the youngest one in the group, even if they were all born in the same year, which was 2004. They started hanging out after all starting the same school, and in the summer of 2020, they were all hanging out as a group that Elias was a part of. In August of 2020, Elias was robbed by the other boys in the group. The robbery had involved physical violence, and the victim was robbed of property and money. The incident was also reported to the police in September, but it seems like not that much was done about it. Elias also started having different injuries all over his body during the fall, for example, a blue eye. When he was asked from where he got these injuries, he usually said that he had fallen and changed the conversation, and he would sometimes even get angry if he was asked more about it, but the truth was much darker than this. The other teenagers, Antti, and Samuel, had repeatedly assaulted and abused Elias since the summer. According to the police, they viewed him as submissive and used him as a ragdoll that they could abuse whenever they felt like. From what I understood online, it was mostly Kalle and Antti that had been playing a punishment game with Elias. This started regularly from November, and from what I understood, they would meet every Friday and get Elias drunk and punish him for doing annoying things. According to the police, this was more about finding reasons to hurt and abuse Elias. Samuel was not always a part of these games, but he sometimes participated in it, but from what I understood, it was mostly Kalle and Antti, the two best friends, who were committing these acts. Sometimes they would also take videos of the abuse and send them to each other as memories. Elias had also been texting with one of the boys after one of the incidents where he said that his glasses were broken and he needed to get new ones. Just as most abusive relationships, the abuse would only escalate over time, and Elias would also return back to the group after being assaulted. On the 20th of November 2020, a woman found Elias laying on the ground bloody after one of these abuse incidents. The woman and one biker who soon also arrived at the scene were thinking about what they should do when Samuel had arrived, telling them that he knew the boy and that he did not know what happened to him. The two people thought that Elias smelled like wine, and they were thinking that maybe he fell from being drunk, so they left Samuel to care for him. Samuel has later stated that Kalle and Antti had showed him videos from the abuse and asked him to join. When seeing these videos, Samuel had wondered why Elias did not defend himself and always came back to meet them even if he got abused, and would cry and ask them to stop. So this whole next part is pretty disturbing, so just a quick warning for sensitive viewers. On the night of the murder, Elias and these so-called friends had been partying together to celebrate one of their 16th birthdays. This was the 4th of December, so it was a Friday and the night started as usual. Other teenagers, Kalle, Antti, and Samuel, had planned in advance to force Elias to drink alcohol. Snapchat messages show how they had been texting about what they would do to Elias that day. Kalle and Antti wrote, for example, and I have translated these messages from Finnish: "We should do all of the UFC things to him, and let's see where the vibes go. Most important is that Elias will get hurt." From the messages, it was pretty clear that they were waiting and looking forward to abusing Elias that night. At first, they all spent the night pretty quietly, and they were having a good time, and the boys also went to buy alcohol. Around 7 in the evening, they went to a park in the Koskela hospital area, just sitting on a bench drinking, and the evening had been calm. Elias had been drinking a lot stronger alcohol than the others and is therefore believed to have gotten drunk a lot faster. Samuel actually had something else to do that evening, so he went away between 7 and 9 before coming back. At some point during the time that he was gone, the other two boys had started the abuse of Elias. They had started around the bench but then continued in another more closed area. But just because Samuel was gone for 2 hours, it does not mean that he was innocent. Because he had actually sent a message where he said, "Don't let him go home. I'm super fucking pissed right now, so as soon as I get there, I will hit him fucking hard." As an answer to this, the two other boys sent a video of what was happening to Elias in that moment, and Samuel answered, "Damn, he looks fucked up." As an answer to this, Kalle then sent, "Antti is breaking his arm right now." When Samuel came back, he also joined the abuse, and for the next 3 to 4 hours, they did only worse and worse things to Elias. Elias had been panicking and crying, asking them to stop while trying to protect himself with his arms. He did not participate in any sort of violence himself, even when getting abused by these so-called friends, and his cries for help only made them more abusive. Now, this attack was truly sadistic, and I will now go into some of the stuff that Elias went through, and just saying this part is pretty disturbing and can be hard for some people to listen to. I want to tell these details in the video because I want to point out that these people were far from innocent, and also teenagers can do heinous acts. But these injuries were hard for even me to read about, and I think it's actually the worst injuries that I've ever heard such a young person suffer. So again, a warning, and people who don't want to listen to this, skip a bit forward. Elias was humiliated, forced to drink alcohol, hit on different parts of his body with their fists and a metal pipe, spit and urinated on. He had also been strangled, kicked, and as I said, one of the boys tried to break his arm. Elias had also been jumped on with knees so bad so that almost every single one of his ribs were broken. His head had also taken many different blows, both from heels, elbows, fists, and other objects. Elias' pants had been ripped off, and someone had put a big iron pipe into his back. The boys had also put small fireworks between his butt cheeks and lit them on fire while filming this and laughing. In the end, Elias had been in so bad condition that he could not even walk anymore. There had actually been witnesses to this incident. There were 2 women who had been passing by at around 8 in the evening and had seen Elias laying on the ground and 2 boys standing next to him. When she had asked them what had happened, they screamed to her that their friend was drunk, so the woman believed this and left. Other people had also passed by and seen the group, and they have stated that they got a scary feeling, but they had not seen any of the abuse. So at this point in the attack, the abuse did not end yet. They now decided to move to an even more closed-off location so that they could continue the abuse without being disturbed. At this point, Elias did not even react to the pain anymore, but even if they didn't get any reaction out of him, they still did not feel like stopping the abuse yet. They now decided to stamp on his genitals and set his hair on fire. During the attack, they had also been mentally abusing Elias by calling him names and filming him. All of the boys had participated in the attack, but Samuel had done the worst damage. At some point, they realized that they had to leave the crime scene, so they just left Elias there laying naked from the waist down. It was winter in Finland, so it was super cold, and Elias' body was completely destroyed and full of blue marks and damages. The rest of the group just went home while Elias was left there to slowly die. The next day, 2 of the boys went back to check if Elias had left home and saw him still laying in the spot that they left him, so they checked his pulse and realized that he was dead. They then had a group call to discuss what to do next, and they were thinking to dispose of Elias' body in the lake, but in the end they decided to just wait for someone to find his body. When Elias did not return to the orphanage, it was reported to the police, but they did not take this very seriously, as it's pretty common for children to run away from the orphanage. On Monday morning, the 7th of December 2020, a construction worker came to work around the hospital, and around 8 o'clock he decided to go pee in the park when he suddenly saw something on the ground. So he decided to take a closer look and started walking towards what he saw when he realized that it was the body of a teenage boy. He screamed to his colleagues to come help him, as he thought that the boy might still be alive, and he also called the emergency services and was instructed to start doing CPR. But when he touched the body, it was cold, and he realized that the boy was dead and must have been dead for a while. The police arrived and started investigating the scene, as they knew straight away that it was a murder. So during the weekend, Antti had actually told his girlfriend about what happened, but he basically blamed Samuel and said that he was the one who committed the crime. His girlfriend told him to tell his parents, but he said that he wanted to have one more normal night. On Monday, he decided to tell his mom, but he still claimed that Samuel had committed the murder. He also claimed that Samuel had been abusive towards him and Kalle, so he was too scared to do anything. So basically, he was snitching on his friend and being a coward by making himself the victim in this situation. Auntie's mom now called the emergency services and told them what had happened, and she then found out that Elias had been found dead. All three boys were pretty much straight away suspects as the situation was unclear and overall strange, and they were all arrested on suspicion of manslaughter. The police also searched their homes, and Elias' parents was informed that their son had been found murdered. Not soon after this, the police also realized that this had not been some innocent mistake, it had been a brutal murder. The boys were now charged with murder, robbery, and assault, but they all denied having anything to do with the murder. In their eyes, they should have only been charged with assault as they had only been hitting Elias. The boys now also started turning against each other, and since Kalle and Antti were best friends, they blamed Samuel for everything that happened. Samuel, on the other hand, also pictured himself as a victim. So the trial started in February of 2021, and the prosecutors saw this as a murder as it was planned, raw, and prolonged, and they had also been aware that their actions might end in Elias' death. Their defense was basically that Kalle and Antti tried to blame Samuel, but basically they all defended themselves by saying that they thought that Elias would just get up and walk away from the scene. As they were all underage, the maximum sentence for murder was 12 years. They also all had mental evaluations, but they did not suffer from any mental illnesses. On the 3rd of September 2021, they were all deemed guilty of murder. And Samuel, who did most of the damage, was sentenced to 10 years in prison, while Kalle received 8 years and 2 months in prison, and Antti received 9 years and 2 months in prison. And I just want to say that I'm completely shocked that they did not even receive the maximum sentence, which is already way too short for what they did to Elias. But Elias' parents were happy with the sentencing, so I guess that's the most important in the end. Because of Finland's legal system, they will most likely only serve a third of the sentence, so a couple of years in prison. The theme of the assault had been a punishment game connected to the bullying, and it was the brain damage and broken ribs that had caused Elias' death. The violence among teenagers has increased a lot in Finland in the recent years, and this case was probably the biggest case of bullying that Finland has ever seen. The reasons for the violence among teenagers in Finland might have something to do with the increase in mental health issues. Teenagers in Finland are, according to studies, struggling a lot with anxiety, depression, and substance use. This specific case also happened in the middle of the pandemic, which is believed to be one of the biggest reasons to why the teenagers are feeling unwell. And I just want to add that I'm not in any way defending their behavior, and I don't think that the pandemic can be used as an excuse for what they did. But that's all that I have for this absolutely disgusting case, and I really mean it. This case truly makes me disgusted, and I just can't believe how this young boy was bullied to death by people who he thought was his friends. It's heartbreaking, and it's probably the most brutal case that I have ever heard of, considering the fact that he was only a child. Now, there is so many things that I could say about the people who did this to this poor boy, but I don't want to put my focus on that, and instead I want to focus on what actually happened in this situation. I think that many people don't even think about how bullying can actually end, and in this scenario, it seems like the violence escalated and eventually ended in Elias' death. And this case ended like this, but bullying can also lead to suicide or mental health problems such as PTSD, depression, suicidal thoughts, or anxiety. If anyone watching this knows about someone being bullied, or maybe you are being bullied yourself, then please reach out to any adult, your parents, or other family members. If that's not comfortable, then teachers or any other adults in your school can help you, but most importantly, please stay strong. Just please know that people who do this are not peaceful within themselves, and most likely it will get better whenever you get away from the school or the situation that you are in. It's just so easy to bully others, especially in today's world with social media and phones. I mean, someone can just be bullying you behind a screen without even having to face you. I truly hope that Elia's family are getting the help that they need to survive this truly tragic incident of losing their own son to bullies, and I hope that they will one day feel some kind of peace. But that's all that I have for this case. Thank you so much for watching, and just please be nice to each other and take care of each other. And I hope that I will see you in my next case. Goodbye, everyone.